We're gonna go to that concert, right?
No.
Why? It's only $100.
I'm not spending $100 on Evanescence tickets.
Why not?
I don't even know who their opener is. I looked it up and I was like, I have no idea who these people are.
Hailstorm's actually good.
Are they?
Yeah, they're actually really good. They're actually better than Evanescence.
Save me.
Hey everybody, this is Space Marine Steve with my good friend Ian here at Hyperspace Hobbies. I am back from Tacoma. Mike and I had an absolute blast. We're gonna go over some of the ups, some of the downs, and some of the big moments of Tacoma.
Yes, and then a little bit of the controversy that happened.
A little bit.
In
the internet.
Tacoma.
Oh yeah, the 40K world on the internet definitely had a little bit of a tizzy on the winner of Tacoma. We're going to talk about that and just kind of reflect on it for a second.
Mm-hmm.
What you should do in the meantime, though, while we get ourselves ready for this conversation, is you should like and you should subscribe and you should think about running down there into the comments section and just kind of joining the conversation on 40K. And that's what Hyperspace Hobbies is all about. So we want you to be a part of it. First things first, thank you everybody that took some time to come up and ask me how my time with the Anvil Siege Force was going. I know there's quite a few people that do watch our content there at Tacoma, and they came up and they complimented us here at Hyperspace Hobbies. So, you know, I'm telling you that now. People like what we're doing.
Thank you.
And they were very interested to hear how I was doing with the Anvil Siege Force. Mm-hmm. Like, you must be one of two people in the entire building running this thing. And so it was exciting to have people kind of rooting for me.
Yeah.
People love an underdog.
Yeah.
Right? Like, people love an underdog.
For sure.
And so I think when you're going in to a big tournament like that where people are being very competitive and they want to win, and that's like the goal of the event is to win, and you're playing something that is, you know, the math says it's not quite as good, and you're doing okay with it. Like, those people love those little Cinderella stories. So my round one, I was a little downtrodden after round one.
That was a tough matchup.
It was tough.
In your round one. Who was your round one opponent?
His name was Steve Trimble, and he was the guy that won the event in the previous year.
So he was a very seasoned player.
Very seasoned player, very strong player too. Like, everything in the game kind of came natural to Steve. Like, whether he was thinking very hard or not hard at all, it didn't matter because everything was just very chill and relaxed, and he was in a very relaxed way destroying me.
Yeah.
And
he was playing Tyranid.
He was playing Tyranid. So I'll show you kind of here's a picture of our deployment. And this is actually where I went wrong. And this is, Steve and I kind of agreed that this is where I lost the game. This is before it even really started. This is where I lost the game. There's a second definitive moment, which we'll show in a second, but this is where I lost the major part of the game. And it's because I had a little bit of addition lag, and I forgot how Scout worked. And I was a little like, oh man, I'm playing the champ. This is crazy. And I was, trying to go quick, and so it was intimidating. I got in my own head, and I forgot how Scout worked because in the previous editions, you could scout on the first turn, and that was, you just got that movement. But in 10th, you can scout, but you can't end your move within 9 inches of enemy models. And so what I should have done is, instead of protecting the Land Raider in the back, and you can see it there on the left-hand side, instead of protecting the Land Raider in the back with my infiltrators, I should have just put the infiltrators right on the line and made it so his big pack of Gene Stealers couldn't get a full scout move towards my lines.
Right. Because
he ended up going first, and in his first turn, he connected a first turn charge with advancing Gene Stealers. And so it mangled up my movement, and I played right into his hand. So
it boxed you in, and that kind of left you on the back foot in the scoring.
Exactly, and he just continued to score well. And then on top of that too, like, I put myself in a bad position, so it is my fault. And then I continued to, like, top deck things that needed me to be elsewhere. Right. So then, and because he's everywhere, every top deck for him is a good top deck. Right. And so I really needed to draw, like, killing secondaries, but I didn't.
What was one of the stronger moments in your gameplay that you felt you had in that particular matchup?
I think I recovered well off the hop. of the game, like killing all of his Gene Stealers and a Brood Lord in the first couple of turns, and kind of starting to like hollow out a lot of his infantry. The downside, though, is I could never get a good connection to the monsters.
Right.
Leading to the second main problem is he told me at the beginning of the game that with the new update, the big snakes like the Molochs and the Trigons get the Vanguard keyword, and so they get reactive moves. And I was like, okay, great. And by turn 3, when this happened, I'll show you this now, I moved a set of aggressors to charge and connect and kill one of his Trigons, and then consolidate and steal an objective. But unfortunately, I blanked that these things get reactive moves. And so I moved, and it was like a 7-inch, like a very doable, rerollable charge. And then he's like, I moved 6 inches with both of these Molochs, because you can move with two units. And so he moved both Molochs very far away. I couldn't charge them. And he was like, I think that's it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, I think that's it.
Yeah, some of those reactionary kind of gotchas, they feel really bad in that moment, because you go like, my opponent kind of, they played me, essentially. Yeah, like he knew that was coming, for sure.
He knew that was coming.
And he did explain it at the beginning, so he was being a gentleman about it. It was just in that moment, I'm sure you were a little starstruck playing somebody who was previous champion. And then
it was intimidating at first. It really was.
Kind of get caught up in just the moment of the game and forgetting that those reactionary moves can make or break anyone's game.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. Like, but I mean, just because he was the champ before, what it means is that he's a very strong player. I do think that I had the capacity to beat him, but I needed to make no mistakes, and I made mistakes, right? So, like, if I had put my infiltrators on the line and barred that connection in the first turn, I would have been in much better positions to actually fight him off. And I think I could have, because my list does have that firepower. But because the entire game I was just playing, like, just trying to brush away all the stuff he slung at me turn after turn, he was able to outscore me like crazy. And, you know, by mid game, I had one chance. It was the Moloch move. I had one chance to claw it back. It just didn't happen. Right. And so I lost because of my own mistakes.
Well, that was a rough first loss. I'm sure you were kind of feeling a little bit down because you were making mistakes that you could have played better, and that's always a rough way to start a tournament, especially game 1 of 8.
Yeah.
How did you recover from that?
So I did end up losing my second round, but it was a much closer game, and then I continued to win then 4 games after that. In terms of like major successes, I got a bit of a redo on this Vanguard matchup because I played another player that was playing the Vanguard. And
the Tyranid Vanguard.
The Tyranid Vanguard.
Yeah.
And I taking what I learned from this tournament and implementing it right away. I put my infiltrators on the line, and I'll show you right here actually how it went down. So my infiltrators are here in the middle. I ended up actually getting the first turn, and his scout move, he couldn't actually move his Gene Stealers at all. And then what happened is I took these infiltrators and I put them right up against the building where all of his guys were, and then I just sat them there.
Just as a roadblock?
Just as a big roadblock, because he couldn't move through them. He had to move around them. And it made it so that he like couldn't get to the center objective with any kind of ease. And he was just like, I don't want to put my Gene Stealers out in the middle, because if I do, they're just going to get shot to death. You know, I don't want to. So he tried to assault them with gaunts, and it didn't really work. I fought my way out, and then Anvil Siege Force move in his fight phase and shot all the gaunts to death. Like,
totally.
So he was playing he was playing the game that Trimble should have been playing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I did it right the second time. And I ate around the edges and just make sure to kill like his lictors whenever possible. So I really cut down on his action efficiency, where before I was just concentrating on the big blobs and doing that, where I should have been concentrating on all the stuff that was going to win him the game.
And the Tyranid Vanguard did incredibly well in that tournament. I remember at one point peeking in on the stats of the game, and they're in like the top 10, there was like 3 or 4 Tyranid Vanguards, and then Mike as
Yeah,
well.
then, like, he wasn't playing a Vanguard, but he was NIDS.
Yeah, he was playing NIDS.
Yeah. This is a lesson in learning, right? Like, I hadn't played the Vanguard detachment with the new rules yet, so that was the first time kind of going into it, and sometimes, like, even all the practice that you do, it doesn't prepare you for everything. And then you're also playing a champ, doesn't prepare you for everything, all the practice in the world.
But look at how fast you learned. You took all of the experience of playing that one list at its peak level.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got the win on it. Yeah.
Exactly, right?
That's how you're supposed to do it, right? Learn from your mistakes and your opponents, and then get a W. Congratulations, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was a lot of fun. If you ever do get the chance to go to one of the major opens, I absolutely suggest it. GW puts on a pretty smooth event, right? There are, however, some like criticisms of this of the tournament that we kind of have and that the internet has and stuff like that, and it, as much as it was a blast to go to, as much as I loved competing in it, one, they don't enforce clocks,
right?
Which is which can, I know clocks can be stressful, but they do kind of even the playing field on fairness sometimes, where, you know, like Mike had a game where they only got to turn 3, and then a judge had to come over and kind of walk them through 2 turns. You can talk through turn 5 sometimes.
Yeah,
you
usually
can't
turn
talk,
5 you can just. Yeah.
This is what happens.
Bottom of turn 5 is like you
this happens. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't walk through. You can't walk through turn 4 and 5.
Having clocks there definitely would have helped. It sounded like if there was ample time in between games.
Yeah, there was a buffer zone.
Yeah, which is awesome that they've kind of set up Tacoma properly, that you're not feeling rushed.
Yeah.
But in other ways, like I've definitely played games where I wasn't looking at the clock, and then I looked up and I was like, we're on turn like 3, and it's been like 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Like, where did the time go, kind of thing? And that can happen when you're in the moment and you're thinking and you're rolling dice and you're having some laughs.
I really do appreciate all the work that GW put into it, and it is a really strong event. With that being said, though, also, like, they don't enforce the WYSIWYG thing.
I remember talking to Eddie, and he was saying, he's another one of our friends who plays Space Marines, and he was saying that the opponent's whole army none of it was WYSIWYG. He couldn't tell what one thing was to another. He like had proxies. Yeah. It's like, oh, these regular old Space Marines are actually assault intercessors.
Or whatever.
Yeah, and you're like, well, I can't tell what anything is.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do in that kind of a situation. What would you do? Would you call a TO over and say, like, I don't know what anything is. Yeah. This guy could be telling me whatever he wants. Yeah. I just want to play a clean game. How do you address that kind of situation?
I think, like, because the TOs, as it was explained to me, what they want is they want everyone to try and have the most positive experience that they can have. And the Tacoma, in relation to many other events, has got a higher percentage of like first-time event goers than a lot of other major tournaments where, you know, maybe major other tournaments have 15 or 20%. This is my first event. Tacoma actually does have like a 45, or like it's like half the people there. They're like, this is my first major tournament. And a lot of my opponents said that. So they maybe go to smaller events at stores and stuff, but this is their big event. And so GW is very like keen on making sure that they can get as many people playing this game as possible. And that's why they do it. They don't want to have there be barriers like your guy doesn't have a chain sword, but I mean, okay, whatever. So they don't want silly barriers. And to that I understand, actually. And I agree with the mentality. But it's situations like that. Like if someone says, hey, I've got a Wolf Lord and he has a power fist, but he's modeled with a sword. Everything else is fine, though. Like, do you care? No. As long as I can tell which one the Lord is, it doesn't matter. But in that scenario where you're like, nothing is what it is, I don't even know where the guns are, like, it can get difficult. Yeah. So honestly, it's a case-by-case basis. As long as your opponent kind of knows what's going on and nothing feels like it's fluid. Do you know what I mean? Like, you never want it to be, oh, like, this has this gun, but then it has a different gun? How many guns does it have? Right. Like, you don't want it to feel like that. My suggestion to you and you know, how I would handle any of those situations is call a TO.
Yeah.
And just get the TO over there, explain what's going on, and then the TO can make the call there. However the TO decides in that moment to deal with it, that's the best way to go. What I suggest is never get into like a head-butting match with your opponent.
Right.
Let the TO deal with it. You play the game that
they're
you
there
practice.
to have fun too.
Exactly. They're there to have fun too. So however you can negotiate that taking place, the better.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it a bad event. It just makes it something you have to be aware of. Warhammer tournaments can sometimes be rife with controversy, and and it's always centered around like cheating. Like, did someone cheat? Did they intentionally cheat? Did they, were they trying to be underhanded? And we weren't really involved in this, so it's not fully for us to say, but apparently the winner of the event was like given a couple of yellow cards. And what that means is that you're given warnings by TOs for not misrepresenting models or playing the game incorrectly or unsportsmanlike conduct or whatever it is. And apparently the guy that ended up winning the tournament was given a lot of warnings on his way up for, playing models incorrectly.
Yeah, apparently what he was doing was misrepresenting how a battle wagon can be the loadout for a battle wagon.
Yeah,
and
what
still
it does
taking
to the
all
model.
the advantages. Because a battle wagon, you kind of do a bunch of things with it. You can give it an ARD case, which means you can't shoot out of it.
Yeah.
And it increases its toughness. You can give it a kill cannon, which lowers its carrying capacity. You could do both of those things, and then it has lower carrying capacity and a higher toughness with the ARD case. And apparently they had done that, but they were still playing the rules like it had full carrying capacity.
Yeah.
Gazgul and a bunch of guys in there.
Yeah,
So it was kind of...
didn't really...
And that is like
good.
playing in the rules. If you're giving this thing carrying capacity gets cut. So that was bad. But that wasn't... There was more... Because that was probably one of the yellow cards that was
there's
given.
more
but
things.
Does it leave a bit of a sour taste in your mouth? Because the winner sort of went in, and the guy who claimed to be champion sort of kind of feels a little dirty the way he got there.
It does. And, people demand closure and justice. And so the thing is sometimes when we feel we don't get that justice, people get really angry, right? And so... people are definitely upset on the internet right now that this is how things went down. With that being said, though, like I do know that the TOs that were there, like, made the call that they deemed was best. We weren't the ones making those decisions, and they made what I think is the best call they could have made in the moment, having seen now that he had gone so far in, and then all these problems kind of arise. And like they had to make some tough calls, and they went with like a very conservative option, give him a bunch of warnings, right? Like have somebody watch his games, right? Like, and was it the right call? I think in that moment it was. Was it the one that made everyone happy? No,
absolutely not.
Right, and then the thing is he ends up winning, and then people are like, oh, does he deserve it? Does he not? Like. And I don't think that that's really for us to say or decide. However, it does make me think how important the social element of our game is. Because at a tournament, we're all going into the social contract. And the social contract is important. Like, it's a contest, right? And we all play by the same rules. We agree on the same, right? The same, set of restrictions. And... when someone kind of breaks that social contract, whether it is by it is intentional or unintentional or whatever, depending on how all that kind of goes down, it can really sour that experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
I mean, if I managed to get to the top tables or even close, or even if he beat me somewhere throughout the tournament and that was my only loss, I would be pretty upset.
Yeah, you'd be pretty upset.
I'd be very frustrated with the system that this guy didn't get kicked out earlier.
Yeah. It's just so hard to say. Like we weren't wearing the yellow shirts, right? We weren't wearing the yellow shirts. We didn't even get to see it, and so we're just kind of reacting, just like the whole community is reacting now, right? It's important now to make sure that we uphold the rules as much as possible moving forward, and make sure that the events that we go to, we are like kind and we are playing by the rules ourselves, and that we are vigilant to make sure that we hold everyone else around us accountable.
I wonder if this might change the landscape of how they judge this sort of thing in the future, because
I think it might.
I'm sure a lot of people are talking to or at least like the Reddit threads and
they sent out that survey. I bet you anything they're hearing about it. But you know what? It was a great event. I loved going, and I will definitely go again. Tacoma's phenomenal. 8 games is a lot.
It's a lot.
8 games is a lot. Yeah. But I will definitely go. I loved every minute of it. And thank you so much for listening to us kind of do a quick recap on it. This is my good friend Ian. I'm Space Marine Steve. We are at Hyperspace Hobbies. Please like, subscribe, and tell us, maybe point out some more mistakes I made down in the comment section below. Have yourself a really great day.